Cloud.
Record and then record to
And
cloud.
looks like, does that look like we're recording?
You're recording.
It is.
Woohoo! Okay. So everybody, this is Mark Wriggle. I'm filling in for Stuart Wild. He's on sabbatical. No, he's not on sabbatical. He's actually kind of, in a way, I suppose. He's handling family issues at the moment. Pretty serious thing that happened to their family. So I'm going to just kind of fill in the last minute here and try to keep the ball rolling for him. We're going to be covering tonight's e-commerce workshop. So I thought maybe, and this is an intro, so I thought maybe the best way to approach this, I do have a very short PowerPoint presentation to kind of kick things off. But really, in talking to Stuart just a few minutes before coming onto the call here, we thought maybe at the end of this, I'm not going to belabor it too much. I'll just kind of get the mindset going in that direction so we're kind of all on the same page with the fundamentals. And then I'd just like to open up. It is a work group, so, and I'm not the duty expert here on all this. So what we'd really like to do is field your recommendations, the whole crowd, and this in an effort to help build the subject matter for e-commerce for future programming. So if you got some stuff that's really, that you really feel like you want to pursue, please let us know. We'll see if we can put it in some sort of viable order that would, make some sense. Or man, we'll play whack-a-mole, and as this, a target comes up, we'll go shooting at it, and we'll bring it live to you guys and make it work for you. So, alrighty, I'm going to do a screen share. I think everybody is good to go. I'm going to mute. Everybody looks like I'm going to mute all for right now, and we'll go from there. Let's see here. Screen share. Where am I going? I'm going right here. So bear with me to bring all the info. And that, by the way, is the last slide for topics and ideas. We'll get to that. But here we go. So e-commerce work group, an intro. I'm just filling in. This is all part of John Lavinia's Success Mastermind course. This is the inaugural effort. So bear with me as we kind of breeze through this. I just wanted to talk a little bit about e-commerce. Each time I go to a slide, I'll give you just a minute or so to read through it. Now that you've read through that, no, I'm just kind of kidding you, so I'll back up on this. Just kind of goofing around with you guys. So I'll give you a minute here to read through this and just talk a little bit about where e-commerce has come from. Actually, I didn't realize, that e-commerce had started, so as they say back in the 60s. Every day you're learning something. I certainly learned something today. I thought it was kind of interesting, this little piece of trivia towards the bottom, that the first ever purchase was for a Sting CD in 1994. I didn't know that. But the other thing I found interesting is another piece of trivia is this year, they say they're expecting that e-commerce sales are going to account for 15.5% of worldwide retail sales. That's from Oberlo, excuse me. And I picked up the source from a number of different websites for listening, and virtually all the websites that are at the bottom and probably anything else says the same thing, just what e-commerce is, how we transfer information back and forth and data and money, etc. And this is the world we live in now. E-commerce websites. What is an e-commerce website? Basically, just what we talked about. It's just from point A to point B and facilitating transactions. This is how we're operating today, and I don't think I'm speaking any new truth, but the reason I'm mentioning this now is, again, I want to set the framework for where we're going to go here in about 5 minutes, so we can just open things up and see what kind of things are plaguing people. Types of websites. I did find this rather interesting. I know many of you have already worked on B2B sorts of businesses and B2C businesses, but I thought it kind of interesting when I went down to the bottom here where it's C2B. Here's, I think the more that we get involved in e-commerce, and I'm starting to see a little bit of this with just training from AX10 and to see others, and I've probably seen a bunch of this and didn't even realize what I was looking at. this was, these influencers. And just as an aside, one of the things that I did with an India supplier that I'm working with right now, this is a very long, arduous effort, but I'm working with an India supplier for an exclusivity arrangement in the U.S. With the first-time product into the country. And I'm probably going to be reaching out to a number of people because this is huge. It's a lot of work, and they want to concurrently move through Amazon, Shopify, and big box stores and other retail outlets all at the same time with a brand of theirs. And they have a couple other brands that they're willing to private label, but this is quite an effort. And when I see this going on and I think about influencers and how we market something that large and that, that cumbersome, I don't know, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm wondering how I'm going to put this all together, but they seem to be wanting to do business with me. So maybe I've been able to throw some tidbits at them, and they did, the kind of deer in headlights look like, okay, they learned something too. So maybe more so than not, we are all in this arena where there's a lot of new stuff happening here, and we're all learning something. And it makes me feel a lot better because I know I'm certainly in the neophyte stage still. So I'm just trying to move along and gain as much knowledge as I can. I'll bet most of us are using one or more of these websites. And I just threw a bunch of this stuff up here so we could see some of the websites that we probably are using. The ones in kind of the red color, if you look at the source on the bottom, these are kind of, website development sites. This is the Shopify's, etc. I think a number of you have worked with WordPress, but I use GoDaddy right now, but I'm looking at others. Other forums that help support or improve websites like Shopify would be Zipify. That's Ezra Firestone as the CEO for Zipify. He has some really good, he's got some good information, and he's got a whole series of there goes my phone. He's got a whole series of calls, Zoom calls, and other media platforms, the Smart Marketer program that you can go in and gain some information on how to use Zipify to bolster or improve the Shopify experience for people. I threw this in as a whole thing. Adrian sent this to me. Adrian, do you want to speak? Do you feel like you want to speak to this for a second? You can jump in here. Let me see if I can. Do you know how
Don't worry, no, I've unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep, I sure can. Go for it.
No, I didn't want to jump in. I just had the crazy idea that it would be interesting to try and get Amazon's views, and you never know who would reply. And they very kindly replied. I wrote to Jeff Bezos to say, look, we're all learning together in a group. Have you got any tips for us in what makes a good seller? And I got a lovely email back from one of the executive team, giving us some links in Seller Central. So it was a good start. We didn't hear back from Jeff himself, but it was a very good start. So those links hopefully will be helpful to somebody. And I thought it was interesting, but they did take the trouble to reply, which I did appreciate.
Okay, well, and I think you'll see these links are, if you have a professional seller's account, you're probably accessing this information to some extent, and there are tutorials and such on Amazon. So, and Amazon could be a mixed bag. I think the only thing constant is change with Amazon. So I think we're all experiencing that. It's some work. Okay. So why don't we just get to the meat of this effort, and I am going to, my chair is sinking. I'm going to come out of this thing and stop my share so we can just see each other. And I would like to field, and what we'll do is I'm not going to type it into the to the PowerPoint right now. I'm actually going to pull out my little notebook here, and I'm going to start writing feverishly as we browse through this. But I know this is kind of open forum. Maybe you were expecting something a little bit different, but I think I'll kind of kick things off here. I'd like everybody to understand that I think there are many here that are a lot further along than I am in your journey. And I don't want to profess that, I'm the subject matter expert. So I just want to open the floor and give everybody an opportunity here to share information. This is tough. This is a challenge. I'm deeply involved, and I'm feeding from the fire hose every single day. My learning curve is 90 degrees. I don't know how you guys feel, but I get the repetition. I don't mind going over material and hearing it many times until I kind of get it. For me, that's kind of the way I have to learn. So with that, is there somebody who wants to come out and just start throwing some ideas at me and just give me a moment to write down? But if you have some thoughts about it, bring it on. Okay. Jamie, come on
Mark,
out.
Adrian and I had a conversation earlier today about, I'm new at this too, and newer than you are, newer than most, and still just, you're like you said, feeding from the fire hose. And Adrian and I were talking about, my biggest fear and challenge in my head is making a huge mistake. And that would come in the form of missing the target on the product I choose. And so, it's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen more than once to me and maybe to others. And what Adrian and I had kind of drilled down to was how small of a mistake do you want to make and still be able to learn the lesson without putting yourself behind the 8 ball and never being able to come back and regroup and do it again. So I had a friend here locally who's had an investor friend of his, was a patriarch of a very large wealthy family that dealt in metals here. And one of the things he said to him, he says, look, because my friend was trying to get him into some real estate deals that he's a developer, and he kept telling him, look, I can get you in for 33%, 35%, 40%. And the guy goes, stop. He goes, first of all, I don't believe that those rates are reasonable and sustainable. And second, I just assume you just swing for singles, load your bases, get the bases loaded, which will produce runs. So if you keep hitting, and I may do a presentation on this later on and get a little more in depth in this, but if you keep hitting the singles, and then singles can be represented by, say, Stuart actually and I were talking about this last week, where it's several small hits. And it could be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15. I don't know what's manageable, where they might be bringing in selectively $500, $1,000 a month, but altogether, and of course they're going to cycle in and out because they're going to lose their the popularity, or somebody will steal it from you, or the competition is just going to gobble you up, whatever happens. And that if you keep loading the bases and keep crossing the plate with singles with those smaller deals, your mistakes can be held at a minimum. So as an example, it's a product that you can get at a minimum of 100 pieces, which costs you $200 and all in. And then this may be an unreasonably small number as an example, but it's theoretical. And so that's what I keep running in my head. And as a newbie, want to make sure that I minimize those mistakes and still maximize my lessons. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, let me just kind of run this back at you, Jamie. So what it sounds to me like is for future events, it's kind of twofold. How do we choose products and get products that, we can work from small to large, or we just, that we can keep moving with. They don't have to be big winners, but you got to keep moving the products and then keep from making mistakes on those. So try to guard against the large
within that,
errors.
hopefully you've swung the bat hard enough that you'll come across that winner, and that winner is going to be defined. It's going to be on our own definition what a winner is. Winner could be to you could be something that brings in two grand a month. To Adrian, it could be 20 grand a month. To me, it could be, 15. But you pepper, you fill the bases with those smaller numbers so that and those lessons are learned as you know what the customer tells you is what you have on there is, what you provided is something that people want, basically. That's obviously
Right.
the sales. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Can I comment on that, Mark? Can I
Yeah,
just say
go ahead,
something?
Adrian.
We had that conversation. Yeah, it's all about having a whole spread of returns across the board, diversifying, because if you bet your shirt on one thing, you're really risking the fact something goes even slightly wrong, and then you may have dug such a big hole you can't carry on. So it's all about diversifying. Plus, let's face it, as Jamie said, people are going to start copying you or coming up with an idea that's better than yours. You could find that something goes down. So you've always got to have a pipeline of ideas rolling, so you're ready to keep going. We're going to talk this week in our session on business about cash flow, and that can kill you. If you have too big a void, it's the same in the landlord-tenant market. If you have too big a void where you've got empty space for too long, it just kills your whole margin and profit for the whole year. So you've got to try and keep going and not just have one spurt stop, one spurt stop. So it's better to have a range of things happening. So you've always got activity which generates cash. Cash is coming in. That's cash flow. That pays the bills and makes sure there are no voids which cost a lot of money.
Yeah, so because to me, the worst case scenario would be is you got started, you made the wrong choice, and you hit it. Your cash outlay was so large that you had to kind of step back and wait another 2 or 3 months, 6 months, 5 months, whatever the number is, to get back in the game again. Whereas you could stay in the game continually if you are minding how you're exposed.
Yep.
And to those 2 points, just a couple guys that come to mind that feed right up that alley. Tim Jordan, for one, and the others, Dan Rogers. And anybody here who has watched either one of them on any of the YouTube videos that they've done, or watched any of the summits that Tim Jordan has participated in. I know Tim gets into the whole thing you're talking about, Jamie, and actually you alluded to it too, Adrian, is you're picking multiple products. And in this little, maybe you've got this stack of 4 and this one's about this tall, and then you get 3 or 4 or 5, and then you get 1 or 2, and then you get, 7 or 8, and you're building these as they go. And he actually advocated that that's when you should start to look for your brands and figure out how you want to do your branding, not necessarily at the beginning. And then Dan Rogers gets into discussion on what you're talking about, Adrian, with cash flow in particular, and about making sure that I think he advocated somewhere in the neighborhood of a 30 or 35% on the next end. So when you get to that point where you're getting ready, and I think Kevin King even talks about this, where you're looking at, you get your first series of products or your next series or whatever it is, as soon as that comes in, you are ordering again, and you need to make sure that you have that extra 30% so that you can go, and Dan Rogers says that too, so you can go back out and make that purchase. So make sure you're keeping that money in reserve so you don't shortfall yourself when that's the second or third or fourth time around.
Yeah, we're going to start an in-depth look at cash flow on Wednesday, and we'll follow up on that for another session. But it's all about having gaps. Gaps are bad news. So if you just don't have activity for a while, your costs are still running. Your annual costs, your subscriptions are still running. You're then losing part of the profit you've just made. Worst case scenario, you put back all the profit you've just made and you just keep starting again. So you've got to have flow through, regular flow through, and that's why it's great. We're all going to do it. We're all testing little products to learn the ropes, learn how to do a listing, which is proving to be a real challenge. I know for a lot of people, a listing is not easy. Once you've bolted down, then have a through flow. You've got to have a pipeline. Otherwise, it's hard to maintain the cash flow. Yeah.
And that flow to me equates momentum, right? You don't want to lose the momentum of coming out of the gate doing well, and you've cut yourself off at the knees with your budget. And all of us probably have various degrees of budgets. I mean, I have a fixed budget of what my original outlay is for however many products. And that includes keeping that momentum going, where I'm not going to blow the entire budget on the first roll or the first round of inventory. because I want to be able to keep that inventory going. And if we set our numbers right, that profit, then our cash flow should build so that we can extend ourselves a little bit more, but not overextend ourselves.
That's a great point, Jamie. And
I'm sure I'm sure you're going to allude a lot of that on Wednesday.
I think we will. I didn't know they sold Learjets on Amazon, Jamie, but well,
maybe one day that'll be the home run. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point, though, because what you don't want to do is use up your reserves, put yourself in such a bad position that your best idea, you can't back it because you haven't got enough cash left.
Right.
You want to sort of try and make each product speak for itself. I've seen this so many times. Jam tomorrow, we'll get it on the next one. And you just keep going and going onto the next one. But you've got to try and look at each product and make it stack up. Such a big mistake to carry on running something that doesn't work because it's just digging a hole for the next product that you haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, and part of that cash flow, you really want to avoid borrowing for that cash flow at all costs, unless you can really get some great rates. But I would consider that to be the source of last resort, I think.
Well, that's another brilliant point, and we're going to cover this as well because people don't always understand the cost of borrowing. And the danger of leveraging when you've borrowed against a future product, you've got to service the interest. The interest is compound. It's interest on interest. You owe $1 today, then you owe $1.10, then you owe the interest on $1.10, and so on and so on and so on. It just climbs. And a lot of people are offering finance, so be very, very cautious. You're effectively putting more pressure on yourself and on your product to work first time out. Otherwise, you won't be able to service the interest, let alone paying back the borrowing. So again, it's a high risk strategy. People do leverage, but you've got to be pretty sure of your ground. And even if you're 100% sure your product's a winner, there's still risk. It can go wrong. So be very careful about borrowing. Yeah, Jamie, that's a great point. And we're going to cover this as well. That's on our list to cover in a future session.
I'd like to bring Debbie into the conversation here. She's got her hand up. So, hey, Debbie, you want to step in here?
That's okay. The conversation was really good. I just was on the after call today of John's call. And one thing that has been concerning me, and actually, funnily enough, someone brought it, it's just happened to someone, was I've come up with this idea and I'm going through the process of this, that, and the other. And I'm worried that someone else is going to come up with my idea and have it posted on the Amazon before I get there. And someone on our call today said that they just found that there were 4 sponsors just posted on Amazon with her idea. So the lag time between coming up with an idea and actually getting on the Amazon page 1, I think is fast becoming, I would think, a concern because of the competition or the amount of people that are getting on the Amazon, coming in with their ideas, slipping in while you're trying to get going with it. I'm wondering if, how would one go about rectifying that? Or, it supports the case of having maybe more than one product idea, if you can, so that you can, have those layers. But I find that kind of concerning because of the level of competition that the Amazon is dealing with.
Well, Debbie, that's actually a great point, and I think that, I'm pretty sure that that affects all of us. This is why we're being trained, and why there are modules, for example, in Blue Sky and Dan Rogers and Kevin King and the whole host of people that talk about PPC, to be able to get on sponsored ads. But there's a methodology, there's a strategy to that effort, because PPC, pay-per-click, those, there's a cost to each one of those that you bear, and depending on the popularity of it and how many other people you're competing against, that cost can rise pretty quickly and pretty substantially. That's why I think we're looking at, and why it's also advocated that we begin to look to other, or multiple income streams or other sources, other channels, as they call them, to other sources of income, like going on the Shopify's, or see if you can find products or ideas that you can either bring online yourself on your own website, or through a Shopify site, or some other method, but not just sticking to Amazon. But it's interesting that even to this day, and we see her, we see her talk about it. Sophie continues to talk about the fact that she kind of prides herself on not using PPC at all. And I think it's because she spends so much time really driving down into niche markets. Now, I suppose one way to, and this is something I'm doing, and I don't mind sharing it with the group. We're on the same group here. Yeah, we're competitors, but we're family. And I'd like to see everybody get a win out of this. But if we're sticking to Alibaba, or we're sticking to IndiaMart, or even to Megla, for India sourcing, I think we're cutting our legs off. Need to be looking at the other nations that compete, and this is going to be part of what I talk about on Thursdays, talking about the global strategy and tactical approach, and looking at news and what's happening in different countries. But looking at the Vietnams, looking at the Mexicos, the Nicaraguas, the South America, Brazil. Look at other countries. Spend some time going into maybe the African nations or other Indonesia, and spend some time studying about what the resources are that they export, and maybe find something that's there. Maybe you'll go into a niche. Go to Bali. But the thing I would caution when you go to different suppliers and using the same sort of approach, where you're typing into a search engine where you're saying, manufacturer and the nation that manufactured from, private label, and then maybe a particular category, or if a product or idea that you're interested in, type that in too, and keep driving down into that niche. And again, I keep coming back to Tim Jordan and others, but even he comes out, and it wasn't but about 3 months ago, I think I was watching him as a lead into one of the summits. And he basically threw ice on Amazon when he said, "Don't be an Amazon a resource guy." And it wasn't saying don't go to Amazon to look for certain products. He's saying that he's now spending time in places like Pinterest or Etsy or Houzz or other venues or local local outlets. Just to see what other ideas, and don't get caught up in a particular idea. Look at ideas, or look at things and see what modifiers could come off of those ideas. So there's a way to open oneself up to other avenues for products. This, and I think I would have to agree with Sophie and these other and everyone else who's saying this, because I'm dealing with this just like everybody else is. This is the number one hardest thing to do, as far as I'm concerned, is first of all, just, and John talks about this, just the inertia, just to sit down and say, okay, now I'm going to sit here and now I'm going to start, searching products. What do I want to search? And just to get moving. But then once you get moving, to start putting something together, and don't be afraid to go down some rabbit holes that might get shut out on you. So, but you got to keep doing this. And this is like 80%. This is like the 80-20 thing. It's like 80% of the work. But if you get to that point, and how about I take the word if out of there? When you get to where you're at, sorry about that, folks. When you get to that niche and that product, and Tim mentions this as well, it may be a product that does not exist. And to his credit, I love Steve. He's my coach. But he keeps coming back at me and saying, well, what does the demand look like? Well, there isn't a whole lot of demand here. Well, then why are you looking at it? Well, if I want to take Tim's word, a guy who is a 7-figure super seller, in the world, maybe that means that's not being, and I could be a front runner bringing something into the market. And if I have some time to bring that to market, and I'm willing to kind of absorb that a little bit and work with that, we have a whole slew of people out here that have expertise in different environments. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we looking at each other to get that assistance? So, sorry, I get a little long-winded, but I kind of get on these tangents. Sorry. Anyway, I'm looking for, okay.
If I could
Jamie,
just
jump back in here. Okay.
Yeah, let me just speak to that real quick about the ideas. And I'm getting this is what I'm finding as a newbie, is that when I get an idea, which is few and far between, as you said, this is the single most difficult process, and then to get into the searching of it and writing ideas down, and you're trying to bounce it off certain walls. But what I have found is that when I think I have an idea and I go research it, whether it's Alibaba or IndiaMart or it's whomever, is that when I go to a manufacturer that has the product that I'm seeking, all of a sudden as I'm scrolling through, I see other products that they actually make that I didn't think of. And I've seen a couple where I go, well, I haven't seen that yet. So I'll make a note of it, I'll write it down, and then I'll go to Amazon, or I'll go into Alibaba, or wherever I want to go and see it. Do I see that listed? Does that look like it's gained any momentum? And to your comment about, is there any demand? Well, sometimes, maybe we have to create demand while conscious that we're not throwing everything at it, all of our resources, and go broke. But maybe that's something because you don't see the demand. Maybe there is room, or there is demand for that. That's why I've talked earlier about, coming down and getting down, in a sub level, again, where it's a small piece that doesn't break you, but you build momentum. Like you said, you've got, a graph, one starts here, another pops, and it kind of does this. But the idea, the idea machine for me being new is actually on the websites of manufacturers, where I go, oh, there's my idea, but scroll down, or 2 pages past that, there's some things that I didn't think of. So that might help you, Debbie, when you're thinking of ideas or looking or trying to create ideas, is just to keep going with whatever's listed within multiple manufacturers.
Hey, Jamie, thanks for mentioning that too about Debbie. I'm not sure if we're answering. Was that a little bit helpful, Debbie, or did that make a little? Do we gotta go down and get some information to you, or are you comfortable with that, or?
Actually, it was more of a comment, but I really appreciate the help. But it was just an observation that, you think, oh, sorry, my dog is having an attack.
You must show the dog.
Yeah, no, he's too stupid. He wants more food, and he just doesn't shut up. Sorry. So I'm going to segue for a second, because no, it was just an observation that you think you've got this great product, and then you get all ready to put it on the Amazon, and then by the time you do, it's other competition has got something on there that puts maybe your product on page 2 or whatever. So you got to, I guess, the marketing, which John's secret weapon went over, probably would really should play into our lives a little bit more prominent than maybe if we're just going to stick to Amazon. I'm talking about most of us sticking to Amazon, but the other thing what I've been doing is, with this working at home, I find it very fascinating what industries are doing to cope with this COVID and this new world we're in, and I really find their innovative thinking on how to handle this new world and this pandemic is really allows you to think about what products we could possibly, like you were saying, offer on the Amazon to maybe be ahead of the curve to meet the need that will come, because we are at the beginning of a whole new world. And I mean, for instance, I threw out this idea, and I'll just throw it out to you because I'm not going to pursue it, but a lot of us women, we haven't done these Zoom calls much before, and when we went into work, we had our makeup on and our hair done, and now we spend most of the time at home not that, but we might have this impromptu call, which is why I'm black, because my hair's wet and I don't have any makeup on, and I'm not going to show my face. But we might, if we had a little container right by our screen where we could just grab our mascara and grab our little mirror and grab our little lipstick and grab our little rouge or our hairspray, whatever, and just have it right there handy by where we work, not on our desk, because that's probably cluttered or wherever we're sitting, but right there on the computer. These sort of thinking that this is the new world, and there's just so much opportunity with this new way of doing things. Schools, the way they're doing at schools, the way they're doing at home, there's just so much to think about. Think ahead, think ahead with the new world and come up with ideas that way. I found that really exciting, actually.
Thank you, Debbie. And just one point, one item to your point, Debbie. If you're in anybody here, if you're in a position where you're looking at some idea, you think you can bring some idea to market and it's new, where you have to actually do some product development to actually bring it from nothing. It's something potentially intellectual property type of an idea. I think Amy, I think is it Amy, is it her name Amy Weiss, Wees? You find her on Facebook too. I forget the name of what she calls it, something at home. I'll look it up, but I'll put it out here. But brought some products to market, and she's kind of an expert at pulling that together. So you might want to look her up, Wees. You'll see it, Amy Weiss on Facebook. Sylvia. Thank you, Debbie. Sylvia, you're next. And can I unmute you? How did I do that?
Unmute. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
So, Mark, I just wanted to comment on what you said earlier, a few conversations back about Steve or your coach not saying, don't go there if there's not a lot of demand or that sort of thing. Just don't focus it on it as your first. Focus it on down. Don't lose sight of it, because what if that is the big one and you've got something up your sleeve that, it may not be popular now, but it's going to be popular, or it might be popular. So yeah, make it the second, third, or fourth or something, and get some experience under your belt. And I have so many ideas. I have so many things that I want to do, but I've learned already, focus, go simple, starting out of the gates, and just put those ideas in your back pocket.
Yeah, and to his credit, he did mention it that way. I think what they're trying to do, maybe, Sylvia, is help us guard against, making maybe a catastrophic mistake until we have a better feel for how the market really works. And
exactly.
Yeah, because everything else that he hasn't, strung me along. He's guided me, and he's really, man, he is a great coach. I really like Steve.
So you're
that
talking
was a good
about
choice
Steve.
for me.
Are you talking about Steve
Hancock?
Yeah, he's my coach as well.
Yeah, he's awesome. He is.
Yeah.
So, and I just thought, well, I'm getting to the point now where I want to kind of look at these kind of things. So, yeah, but you're right. Maybe he's just trying to guard us against going down the dark side too quickly. So
yeah, and I like what Jamie said as well about going in small increments. Don't make a big mistake. Make little mistakes if you have to, and then it's a mistake is a learning curve each and every time. So you're going to learn from whatever mistake you make, as long as it's not a big, huge one.
Small mistakes, big lessons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Great. Thank you, Sylvia. Appreciate your input. Let's see here. Who else we got? Hey, Ingrid, come on down.
Hey there.
Hey, Ingrid, how you doing?
Well, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing just fantastic. Look at the group I'm with. So this is a great
I know
time.
it sounds really good.
Yeah.
So, to the point of putting your first item up, which is not known yet, I suppose. That's kind of exactly what I'm doing, and maybe I'm going about it totally ass backwards, but so it's something that I already sell, and it's a horse thing, and horse people like it, and so it's, in that sense, it's great, but everyone has trouble getting it because actually about the shipping, because it's heavy. And so I have it in the warehouse in Canada, and so I'm only going to do it in Canada. And I feel like I can make a lot of mistakes because I have I get a good price. So I feel like I can screw up a lot and it won't really matter, if that makes sense. And because when I looked at all the products, I looked at quite a few products that I thought were really cool and I really liked them, and I would have done the whole, 100 there and 50 here and all that stuff. But then I would look at these shipping prices, and then I would look at what the shipping prices would be after the sales on shipping were done. And then I was like, wait a minute, it's not worth it to me to pay that much more for the product. So why would I even start with 100 of them since I'm not going to fulfill it. So I don't really, I mean, maybe I'm wrong to be doing it that way. I'm going to have, Steve is also my coach, and he just shakes his head because I'm like going about it ass backwards. But I just feel like I'm with you. We need to go to other markets. Forget India and China. We need to move on and like figure out other markets. And we just don't know. Or I don't know. Someone needs to know. Someone's smart. That's just my sort of take. I'm all over the map, but that's where I'm kind of at.
But just keep pressing, Ingrid. You know, it's the whole thing, one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. The power of consistency, etc. Just sticking with it and keeping the faith that this will come through. And I keep looking at when I go to the morning meetings or any of these other venues that there's so much expertise that's just sitting here right in front of me. I need to be capitalizing on this. Maybe this is part of what we need to do too. Maybe we need to have a portal or something where we can have everybody put in their CV, so we can have some understanding of what expertise, what's your subject matter expert, you're a SME for something or multiple avenues. And that way, and why not capitalize on each other's capabilities and offer those opportunities. For example, I had Evelyn Melendez. She's got a really strong background in logistics. Why not look to that, and why not pay for that work? Maybe it's a membership thing. We get a discounted rate because we're working with each other, as opposed to going out there into the ether and working with
That sounds
people
really
that
good.
are, just because we're working with each other, and that way we're also supporting each other. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm brainstorming right now, but just food for thought. I don't have to make a decision now. All right. Anyway, hey, Cyril, I got you next on the docket here. Come on out there, sir.
Hi guys. Hi everyone. I just wanted to add a few things. First of all, actually, I over the last few days, I've been doing quite a few different courses here and there, and one of them, I remember actually one of the speakers noted that some Amazon sellers do collectively send freight forward. That's some groups are already doing it. So just as a note, gauging by some of the words he said, that was self-evident. Just a kind of a little word of caution. I've done little bits of business. I was self-employed as a teenager. I had my own, and this stuff wouldn't go on my CV. As a teenager, I had my own car washing round, which kept me in cash when I was a teenager. And I remember actually, years ago when I was in my 20s, and my mate and my friends and I had a contact that used to sell these neon plastic strip things, you see all around in the clubs. Well, to be honest, I was probably one, if not the first person to take it to a club, but it bombed when I was there. And it was only some I don't know, 6 months to a year later that actually people were then going around with them. So one of the things you have to be prepared for if you when you're first to market is that sometimes it can take a while before the market gets what you got. So basically, I didn't end up selling. I think I sold a few that night. I tried it once. It didn't seem to go well. I stopped. And then some months later, obviously other people had cottoned onto the idea. So you have to allow for the fact that it does take a while for stuff to get going, and it may not be in if something like that, you have to be able to have a cash flow that will work for it. And with it may not really catching for 6 months, a year, maybe, or not at all. So so just a little word of caution when you're doing new products to market. And my little investment as a young man in seeing something that could work quite well, and it did, but just not when I was doing it. So it's okay. My little bit.
So kind of what I'm hearing, Cyril, I don't know if I've got it, right, but sort of weathering the storm in a way, along the route. So
Yeah, that's I'm afraid in new products it goes with the territory. So and to be honest, from that point of view, I got quite quickly as soon as they said don't come in with a new thing and come in with what works already. From as far as I was concerned, I took that to heart, and I have no intention of going in with something that's brand new until I've been in the market for quite some time, and then so I have the finances already sorted out to be able to withstand stuff, something like that. So yeah, absolutely.
all right.
Mark, can I jump in on that?
Yeah, please, Adrian, please.
Yeah, I mean, I really recommend that everyone watches Shannon Lavinia's session the other night, because if you're going to do that sort of thing, and I think Cyril's absolutely right, you've got to weather it out and carry on. If you're going to do that kind of thing, you've got to do a lot more work because you're making the market. So you've really got to identify where that niche is, what it might look like. And Shannon spent a lot of time trying to explain to us, you've got to build an avatar, your ideal customer, someone you think you're targeting. Otherwise, you could spend months going around in the dark and wasting a lot of money. So I really recommend that session. It was very focused on how do you identify these people and exactly what do they look like? But I mean, exactly. How do they dress? Who do they see? What do they like? Only then can you probably be brave enough to try and launch something into a niche that you haven't done before, because it's obviously fraught with risk. You can narrow that risk down. There's still risk, but you can narrow it down if you follow some good process. And she goes through all of that. And I know she'll be doing another session this week. So last week really focused on that sort of thing and on surveys and trying to get feedback from surveys. And she told you how to run a survey. You can ask questions. You can find out exactly what it is they don't like, as well as looking at customer reviews as well, same thing. Otherwise, you're really shooting in the dark, and your chance of hitting the target, well, you know all about that, Mark. You could shoot all over the place and never hit the target.
Actually,
Adrian, this sounds, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say I was on that too, and I thought it was really interesting from my point of view, because for the last 2 weeks I've been working on copy and copywriting from a number of courses, and I've still got some more coming up. And although I did marketing before, I never really covered copywriting. And to be honest, the course I was on previously gave me basically what is it? Proposition, no, positioning, and USP, and what's the other one? And to be honest, what was really quite nice is her course gave me other bits of the puzzle which were missing from that particular course. And to be honest, I've got another course coming up this week will give me some more other pieces of the same puzzle. But so and it's, to be honest, even when I was looking at it, because what I started to do was put together all the pieces, because into a marketing plan, and so that when I come back to it, I can follow my plan in terms of how I run through it. And to be honest, having done marketing, I can see where it's going and what's happening, but it's quite complex when I put it all together. I can see why a lot of people would be put off, and why, to some extent, if you haven't done that before, you are better off buying it in, because it's quite complex. I actually want to have a go at it, because I've tried this stuff before, and it's been I found it quite difficult to do. Also, I realize now there are bits of the puzzle missing, and I'm quite enjoying finding those bits of the puzzle at the moment. But yes, it's quite complex when you look at the whole process, so it depends on whether you're up for that.
Right. Thank you, Cyril. Yeah, Adrian, I think maybe I need to make a phone call to Shannon, because it sounds to me like there are some answers there for this whole India thing I was just talking about a little bit ago. Because I think I might actually be in over my head. I just, and I want to do it right, and I want it to work, and I don't want to do something that's just perceived as either incompetent, and I'm trying, but I just don't know. And then it hurts them too. And that, it's these kind of relationships that I see, if I develop them and I get a win, then, later on, and this is for all of us, we get these kind of things, and then it's the whole word of mouth thing. You don't have to advertise. Pretty soon the guy's saying, no, you don't want to talk to those people. No, you want to talk to this guy. This is what this person did for us. Just don't even go there. Don't waste your time. Go over here. So that's that's why this whole thing, this first piece, is really important to me.
Mark,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, have you managed to get them to slow down so they start with one segment at a time, so to make it easier for you? Because unless they're going to have a load of people doing all the different areas, and also it's better from their point of view going one channel at a time and making that work and then moving to the next one anyway, as far as I'm concerned.
That's a great question, Cyril, because I'm really wondering if I think they're negotiating legitimately, but I understand what they're attempting. They want to get out there and they want to start moving something. But that's really a good point. I wonder if they're doing that too, to just see what, do I start coming back and incrementalize on them or something?
Well,
So
I think it's definitely worth you basically saying that you're up for it, but you're not going to do it all at once because by trying to do it all at once, you're going to end up in the sink, because even the first thing you do is your cash flow is going to go through the floor.
Yeah.
So so you're going to need to take it once, and you may need to get in some help as well, because moving from Amazon to not Shopify, so on, is probably another place to go to after that. But even then, you've got the marketing to go through, because the marketing is more complex for going for something like Shopify anyway. And also your income, your revenue is going to be less as well, because instead of it being, because also on the stuff I was looking at that on the on that thing over the weekend that you watched, I think you watched as well. Was it Gary Huang? One of the big things that was going on there was that the bankers coming back at you, basically saying that you need to probably go for about getting 80% of your sales on Amazon, and about between 10% to 20% of your sales on Shopify before. And you want it that way around, because I remember he was talking about one particular buyout where the guy had basically, or a guy who wanted a buyout, but he had about 20% on Amazon and about 80% through his website, and basically they turned him down because, as far as they were concerned, the market was already saturated.
yeah, we'll see. And I see a comment here in the chat from Janet. I wouldn't mind sitting down with people here in this group and talking further and doing some brainstorming, kind of figure it out. And I don't mind spilling the beans here. Maybe there's something that can be put together, or maybe I'm missing some points of interest. So I'll bring it forward.
Mark,
Go ahead, Jamie. I see your hand up.
I just want to jump in, and I don't like to be a negative Nick, and please don't take it this way. But when you were talking about that in the beginning, my first thought was too big too soon. And it sounded to me, and I was just equating it to cash flow and budgets. And I don't know, maybe these guys, because there might be some details here that we're not privy to, and maybe shouldn't be. Maybe they said they'd fund it. Maybe they have a backer. I don't know if that's part of the backstory, but that sounded like a big undertaking. It sounded, and it sounded like somebody pushing somebody into a situation that while when I first got signed up on this, I just saw, my eyes got big and dollar signs. Oh my God, I'm going to make $1 million easily. Boom. Hey, I'm going to invent a new set of dice and everybody's going to buy it. But it just sounded to me like it's not a bad idea, just a big idea and too big too soon.
Sounds to me like a lot of money that I might have to lay out, and I'm not, and that hasn't really been discussed yet. And that's what I'm
right.
That's kind of what I'm skipping along on right now.
That's that huge mistake you don't want to. That's that hole you don't want to step in, can't climb out of, and may never climb out of. It's just that. By the way, and again, my 3 cents again, and I'll shut up. Is that sounds like something? And by the way, it'll be there later, I'm sure. That sounds like something you get on board or get involved into after you have gotten your small, many small wins, and your engine is clicking, and then you come back and talk to those guys and said, okay, let's talk about it now, you know?
Okay, great. I
mean,
see
yeah,
some of the people sitting here who haven't talked yet. I see a couple of people in the shadows, particularly that, who's coming out there? I see a couple of people there that anybody still want to talk? Still got a little time, got a few minutes. I'd like to hear
Mark,
some more
while
ideas.
everyone's contemplating, if nobody wanted to speak, I was going to talk about, follow up on what Jamie said there. The other angle is you've got to be very careful that your supplier, your business partner has got some skin in the game. And you've got to check the terms, because that's the sort of situation that the liability could be quite large. You've got to see how it's been allocated, who's got skin in the game. If the other side has got no responsibility, and it doesn't really matter to them whether it works or doesn't work, that usually means a bigger fall for you if something happens. So try and make sure anything like that is fair, it's reasonable. Trying to get a bigger piece of the pie usually means a huge chunk of liability attached to it. So don't sign anything without reviewing it properly, checking where the allocation of responsibilities is. I know that some of these contracts are quite daunting, but quite often some of it's common sense. You just read what they're saying clearly about who does what, for example. So don't be put off by the legal jargon, but at least try and understand how they've allocated the flow of responsibilities, who's supposed to deliver what and when and how, and make sure you can actually do it. And that you understand their responsibility. And then, only then, should you really try and set the price for doing that, because if you're taking a huge chunk of liability, you should get a much bigger return. So sometimes it's too good to be true. You're getting a smaller return, but you're doing a heck of a lot more work and taking a heck of a lot more risk for it, and it's not worth it.
I mean,
Yes,
also
great
the
points.
fact is you've got to learn your lessons as well. You go
Yeah.
out too fast, too hard and too fast, you're going to snowdive just because over the overload. So I mean, going out as we've been told is, I think, a better way to go anyway, and just calm them down and say you'll do it, but you'll do it your way if they want to do it.
Yeah, I agree,
Gotcha.
Cyril. You're
Thank
bang
you,
on. I
Cyril.
think you should test a few of their products first. Say you want to test them,
Yeah.
see how the market receives them. You know, it can be that a very popular product just doesn't translate very well. And then on top of that, you've got all the branding issues, which we were talking about last week with Shannon. Just the colors. If you get the colors wrong on the packaging or the branding or whatever it is, that may not play very well. So there are a whole load of translation problems from one territory to another.
Right.
And there could be some trial and error to get that right. And as Cyril says, you know, work on it small, do it the hard way, learn exactly what works, and then you're ready, because you know it's going to work.
Anybody on here know who Sarah Blakely is?
Sarah Blakely. You got me.
She invented Spanx.
Oh, yeah.
Self-made billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading something that she posted on LinkedIn the other day that says, constantly ask why. Constantly ask why. Why do these guys want you to do this? Why is it that they're asking you to do this much? Why? And as you answer each question, there should be the next why. And each why should lead you down to the path and the origin where you need to be, where you want to be and where you're comfortable, in my opinion. I mean, she started this thing in her dormitory. It's just one of those stories. I'm sure everybody's probably aware how she started generally, but just keep asking the questions why. And if they can't answer those questions, then, you know, or you can't answer them for yourself, then those are flags you should pay attention to.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Hey, Virginia, I see that you got your hand up here. Come on out.
Well, I like what Jamie just said about the inventor of Spanx, but I think I remember when those came out, and what really put her over the top is she had, what do they call it, an influencer by the name of Oprah Winfrey, who decided that Spanx were an okay thing. So that just, you know, whatever Oprah says goes.
Yeah.
So that, you know, if we had even just any of the people that could promote our product in some way. What are we calling those people? We're calling them influencers?
Influencers.
Yes. And then that really is going to put you over the top. No. So
Right.
that's all I wanted to say.
Right.
And I actually, well, one more thing, I looked at one of the product research presentations that was done through Gary Huang's 7-figure e-commerce seller summit that went on this past week. And it was the only one I really got to watch, but she was really great because what she came up with product ideas by looking at saturated markets and thinking, is there something I can do here better? So how can I niche this down? I made this example earlier today, can I make a mouse for somebody with autism? Someone with a disability? Can I make utensils for someone who is disabled in some way? So she just really niched things down to what can I do that is going to take a saturated market and maybe add a bundle or add something else or make it just a little bit better product. And that's kind of how she reviews products before she moves on to helium and then looks at the keywords and everything.
She was really good. I enjoyed that show.
Did you see that one too?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. She was really good.
That was one I missed. I think that was one I missed. It was on Monday or something.
Oh, I can't remember what day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can't remember what day, but she was very good.
Yeah, I think that was Monday because I think that's when they had the product. How to find product.
It was the first day, and it was kind of like wasn't really supposed to be in the first day, and she went into product research, and it was good. It was on the first day, but I'm supposed to have access to those recordings, so I hope I do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Hey, before we go, Adrian, as part of your discussion later this week, are you going to be covering anything dealing with like the fixed or variable costs that we're dealing with, like the monthly subscriptions? Or is that, if you do not cover that, is that something somebody here would like me to put together so we can, kind of go through a list to say, what is it, Helium 10 and Merchant Works and all, you come up with the laundry list, or are you going to do that?
No, we're gonna do it from the point of view of managing your cash flow, because we're looking at the technicalities of not getting into difficulty by managing your cash flow badly and failing simply because you didn't get organized on your cash flow, which is one of the biggest killers of any business when it's starting out. It can kill you. So I think it would be great for you to go through that kind of thing, but we're going to focus on, hang on, how do you monitor this? And we're going to try and provide a template so that people can start building their cash flow and monitor it, because you have to be on top of that. It's probably the most important thing in a business.
I'm just thinking it might be, it's probably a good idea to get a consensus on how many people have done accounts before. Because I've done some, and I've done some hefty ones, although I had my problems with cash flow, with sorting out how to look at cash flow. But it's quite technical. It's not the worst of the technical stuff in accounting, but it's worth finding out what people have already done before, because you may have to go really simple.
I know we're going to do that, Cyril. Thanks. We've got to cater for everybody. So we'll start simple, and then we'll look at future sessions and whether it's worth putting more on and what people need to know about. So this is really a starter on terms of what is cash flow, and basically how can you start thinking about it and managing it. And then we'll take it from there. We're just building the topic list really as we see what people need. And of course, there are many people with different expertise on the call, so it is difficult to pitch it. But appreciate the point, Cyril. It's a very good point, and we'll start off this week seeing how we go, and then we'll take it from there. There are lots of topics on finance, etc., accounting that could be covered. So we'll just see what's needed really.
That's your Wednesday night session, right, Adrian?
That's the Wednesday session. Yes, Life and Business Tools, and Ego is co-hosting it with me this week. Ego is an accountant and a senior Google engineer, and she's got a lot of experience in these things. So it's great that she's going to be there with me. She's very kindly building a template so that people can take that away. And we'll do that as a taster, and we'll just see how we get on with it and what feedback we get about what is needed.
That sounds like a great idea. I was just going to say, though, to be honest, I've been thinking about, I'm probably going to need a book, because I've done some accounting. I've got my head around quite a few aspects of it, but I wouldn't mind a really good book to take me through some of the more complex ideas on how to, or rather how to play around with my tables and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that kind of thing. We may even do a book club on it, but I think the first thing is to
yeah, absolutely.
I was very conscious when John launched this of the fact that there are basic tools that some people may not have been exposed to. And we don't want anyone going forward just not having realized these things even existed, because they might dig themselves into a big mess very quickly. So I think the idea was get everyone at least aware of the fact there's an issue. Then you know where to look. You can go back and watch the recording and ask somebody, but at least you've heard about it. You've got a rough idea what's going on. And then maybe as we go on, we'll have much more technical sessions. We might even get hold of an accountant to do a presentation, who knows? So I think it's just dipping our toe in the water, making sure everyone's getting a bit more up to speed. You know, we know some of the things that can go horribly wrong, and we'd like to pass that on, really, just as a bit of basic armor for people to stop them making a mess and not being able to carry on.
I think it's absolutely amazing, the talent of people in this group. And it's just mind-boggling. And everyone's willing to share and help others. This doesn't happen everywhere. It really doesn't. It's amazing.
No,
Yeah,
I think it's great. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's everyone's put so many insights, and you know, the great thing is the joy on the daily calls. Everyone is sharing their insights, and everybody has something to say. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. We're drawing such rich material from everybody, because the great thing is everyone's had a different approach and background to coming to this. So you know, that's what makes it even stronger. So we'll see, but I think we just need to find out what people need and take it from there, you know, and then we'll see if we can get hold of somebody if we don't know the answer.
All right. Well, that's, we're at about an hour and 6 minutes or so since the beginning of this. So our first workshop, we covered just a few fundamentals, and we got into some group discussion, which what I thought was good. And I think related to all this and what you've talked about, Adrian, you know, and where we're going next later this week, I think this is going to be, you know, this will be, you know, it's the aggregate of all these courses that we're putting together that are going to make us more savvy, more shrewd in our business dealings with e-commerce. It's just, this is an e-commerce workshop. You know, this is our inaugural event, and I just see it going up from here. So please feel free to you know, come forward. And if you've got expertise or things you'd like to share that are good subject matter, I would invite you to get involved and participate, because it's a win for all of us along the way. So unless anybody else has you know, something really pressing, I am going to call it an evening, and I'm going to stop the recording.
Well, can I just say, it's the book
Yes,
club,
go ahead, Adrian.
9 p.m. Eastern time. It's the book study, second part of John's book study on, I think it was James Allen. And apparently the second chapter he's about to get to is a blockbuster. He's warmed us up with that.
And that's what, about 23 minutes from now? So
yeah.
Okay. So I've got to get off here and let you guys have a relief break, get a little food or something, and get back to it again. So
All right. Thank you.
hey, thank you for coming in and spending some time with me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, everybody have a good evening.
See you later.
All right,
Thanks.
take care. I have stopped. No, I got to stop my recording. Here we go. Do you want to stop cloud recording?